Well, what's up, my friend? Welcome back to AI in Motion, the show where I give you practical ways to use AI in your business so that you can not only make more money, save a bunch of time, but also scale your business more effectively. And this is what we're going to be designing today. This is a research assistant that will automatically do some deep research on anyone who signs up to book a call with you to discuss a product or service that you have. And as you guys know, I kind of build stuff for myself and then I share it with you and show you kind of conceptually how I did it. And the goal of the channel isn't really to teach you how to be an N8N developer. If that's what you want to do, there are tons of other shows that will help you do that. My job is really to kind of help you understand and conceptualize what's possible with AI agents and how simple some of these can be. Because if you look at this is a really simple workflow. It's almost like if you don't create something that's crazy complicated, nobody in YouTube wants to watch it. But the reality is the more complicated you make something, the more likely it is to break. Now, the reason that I designed this for myself is because, and you can answer this question for me, have you ever booked a call with someone to talk about their product or service, and when you get on the phone with them, either them or the sales rep, and the very first question they ask you is something like, hey, so tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell me a little about your company. Because they've done no research at all. And whether it's an icebreaker or whether they've just done no research at all, I find it incredibly unprofessional to do that. Especially if you sell anything in a high ticket environment. If you're an enterprise level company that sells to other enterprise level companies. And so I like to do a lot of research on whoever it is booking the call with me. With me, it's typically a CEO or some sort of higher level C-suite person. Okay. So I want to do research, but that research takes a lot of time, and it's none of it's automated. And so you got to go look for their LinkedIn profile, and you got to try and deduce a little bit about who their company is and what they do. And deep research and ChatGPT have made this a lot easier, but I wanted to create something that would just automatically do it for me every time someone books a call. Okay. So I'm just going to walk you through the process here that I used to design this. The first node that we're using is just a trigger node. And all this is just doing is saying, hey, every day at midnight, I want you to go and I want you to run this execution. So that's all it's doing. The second node is an HTTP, an API call to my calendar service that I use, which is something called TidyCal. It's very similar to Calendly, except you pay for it once and you never have to pay for it again. I don't know how these guys make any money, but it's an exceptional product if you haven't used it before. And so if you're spending $49 or $100, whatever it is for a Calendly membership, you can go check out TidyCal and maybe save yourself a little bit of money right there. Inside of the TidyCal app, we're basically doing an API call. And I'm just saying, hey, here's all of my information in here that you're going to need in order to connect to TidyCal and pull the information that I want. And I'm pulling all of the bookings that have happened or that have currently happened in the last 24 hours. And I'll show you kind of how this works. Now, if you don't know how to do this and you don't know where to find all of this information in here, it's not that difficult. Pretty much everybody who has an API connection also has some sort of documents. And so all I did was I just went to TidyCal API docs. And I went in here and it's the first one. I click on it and it says, hey, you just need to go create a personal access token right here. So I click on that and then I go create a new token. I give it a name and it creates a token for me. And then I take that back over into my N8N workflow and I just plug that into this API. And I'm making it sound a little bit simpler than it is. There is some complication to it, but once you've done one or two of them, they're all pretty standardized. Now, there is one problem with the TidyCal API. It's not very robust. As you can imagine, if you pay for something once and then you never have to pay for it again, and I bought mine several years ago and I've been using it ever since, their API is not very robust. What I really want to do is just pull in all of the people who have signed up and scheduled an appointment with me from a specific calendar, right? And sign up with a specific form. And I just want to pull the people in for the last 24 hours. Unfortunately, their API doesn't allow me to get that granular, but I have a simple workaround. All I did was create an if node. And this if node is just like true or false. It says, is this true or is it not true? And inside the if node, I've told it, whoops, I just killed it. I got to go back and redo this. Hang on. Okay, fix that. Sorry, I accidentally. I do this all the time. I accidentally hit this little trash can icon, and it kills everything that I just wrote. So what we're doing here, you can see that TidyCal's pulled in all of this information, but I only want people who have signed up within the last 24 hours because I'm going to run this execution every day, and I don't want everybody being pulled through. And so all I've done is write a little conditional statement that says, hey, only pull over people if, number one, they've signed up in the last 24 hours for a meeting and they've signed up using a specific sign-up form inside of Calendly. So if I come back here to Calendly, this is the one that I'm concerned about, this game plan call, because this is the one that any new potential client is going to sign up for to have their first introduction with me. It's typically an hour-long meeting, okay? So the question that I'm asking is, it should only pull over the people that have done it in the last 24 hours, and I actually have an example because I did this for myself earlier to make sure that it all worked and so that there would be some data in here that we could show it working. And what you've got in here is, I'm going to put this in the schema format so you can see that it's pulled over, again, a ton of information from Calendly, but it's really just one event. It's one individual person that it pulled through here, which is great. That's exactly what we wanted it to do, okay? Now, the next step in this process is we're going to need it to do some deep research on the person that has scheduled the appointment. And I've got a little loop node in here. This makes more sense if you see it in its totality. So let's say that it pulled over. I rarely have more than 2 or 3 people who sign up in a 24-hour period to book a call with me. But let's say that you have, hundreds or dozens of them that are happening every day. What we want is it's going to have to run this execution for every single person that comes in. So if you've got 5 or 10 or 15 people who book calls with you, you're going to want to run through this process that 5, 10, or 15 times. And so that's why we have this loop node in here. Then we get to the meat of it. This is the AI agent. And AI agents, I said this many times, but I'll say it again. AI agents work really well when you have very specific tasks with clear instructions. They do not work well when you start having multiple tasks and asking it to remember complex information. And that's why most of the AI agents that you see being built on YouTube and showcased will never work in a practical environment. They'll never work in a real world environment. They will break over and over and over again. And most of the time what you're seeing from other creators who are putting this stuff together is they're trying to make it big and complicated because it looks cool. But in reality, the second that they tried to implement it in the real world with a client, it would end up exploding. So simpler like this is better. Okay, so at this point, you may be feeling a little overwhelmed at the realization that this whole AI agent thing isn't quite as easy as you thought it would be. Well, I got some good news for you. It can be. You see, the engineering team at Motion has spent years designing the most useful work tool for the 21st century. And they already have AI agents, exactly like the one I'm showing you, built directly into their platform that their engineering team can customize to fit your company's unique needs. So if you want a simple and friction-free way to add AI agents to your business, click on the link in the description for a free trial to test Motion out for yourself. And for everyone else, let's get back to the episode. So what's in the AI agent? Well, the first thing is we're using a chat model. I'm using ChatGPT, GPT-4o Mini, and we can always bump this up. So if we're not getting very good research, we can always, go a little higher and try something a little different. But then also I've got a Perplexity node in here, and I am using Sonar for this research. Now, the example that I'm going to show you, I had to do research on me. I'm a pretty well-known figure online. If you Google my name, I'm like the whole page, right? So there's lots of information out there. That sounded like I was being really snooty. I wasn't. There's a lot of information on me that's readily available. And so I just am using the mode of Sonar. If you tend to deal with companies and individuals who are less well-known and there isn't as big an online footprint, we can always bump this up and do Sonar Deep Research. It's more expensive, but obviously if you're looking at closing a big client, it's more than worth putting the money in to do that. But Sonar, not only is Sonar cheaper, it's also way faster. So if you move to Sonar Deep Research, you're going to end up, it's probably going to take 6-10 minutes for it to run through and do all of the information gathering it needs to do. Okay. But those are the two brains. So really, when we come into this agent, we're going to be using ChatGPT as sort of the brain, and we're going to be using Perplexity as the method for going out and finding information. But this is where the real magic happens in here. So let me go ahead and run this execution. Okay. So it will end up pulling over this information. Come on, baby. There we go. And now we have one in our loop branch here with the information that we need. Okay. Now when we come in here, what you're going to see here, it'll populate in just a minute, is I've gone in and I've found the information that I'm looking for. So if I scroll down here, your booking is confirmed. You have to kind of dig through this. It's not readily apparent where this stuff is. But here's the user. So this is me. This is all of my information, where I live, my name, that kind of stuff. And if I come down here into contact, this is the one that I'm looking for. So I'm using two different prompts here. One is the message. So the message is, what information do I want to give to the AI agent so that it can do its work? And then we have a system prompt or a system message. And this is all of the instructions about how I want the agent to operate and what I want it to produce for me. I'll show you both in just a second. So the first one here, I want the prospect's name. So I come here, find their name. Sometimes I get both names. Sometimes I just get a first name. And so I wanted to test this with just a first name and see how well it worked. All I do is just drag this over into here, and it automatically populates this JSON code so that the AI agent knows what to look for. So basically I'm saying, hey, here's the prospect's name, Jason. Here's their email address right there. And then their website. So if we come down here, and then I've got a series of questions. What industry are you in? Why did they book the meeting? And additional context. And where I'm pulling that from is actually in here. If I go into my game plan call and edit this field down here, questions to attendees, those are the questions I ask. What's your website? What industry are you in? What's the primary reason for booking the call? And is there anything else that we need to know or you think I should know before we speak? All this does is just give the AI agent context and helps them determine, oh, am I looking at the right Jim Jones or is this the wrong Jim Jones? Okay. And then when we come down here to the system message, this is really where the magic happens. And the quality of the output that you get really depends on two things. The model that you're using. So if I was using 4.0 or 4.1 rather than 4.0 mini, I would probably get a little better response. As you'll see in a minute, the response is still really good. But that's the first thing. The second one is the instructions inside of the system prompt. So I always build mine the same way. You're a deep research assistant agent for N8N workflows designed to gather, summarize, and structure information about individuals who schedule meetings via the user's calendar, yada, yada. So this is the identity of who this bot is. Then context. You operate within the N8N operational environment where when a new meeting is scheduled to the user's calendar, you are triggered with structured input data. That's the data I just showed you, the name, email address, all that stuff. Such as name, email, company, etc. Your task is to research and invite the invitee and their organization, compiling a structured brief to assist the user before the meeting. So just telling it what it's supposed to do. And then I give it some basic process outlines. I tell it some of the breakdowns, sequential target sources, look for LinkedIn, official company websites, news or press releases, analyze and extract all those data points. Then I come down here, and then the final answer, I say, deliver the structured research briefing in plain text. And that'll be important in a minute. Sometimes you want to output, typically you'll output in a JSON format, but because we're going to be going into an Airtable, this is the correct way to do it. Now, constraints, I give it some constraints. Don't hallucinate, don't include search URLs or deep web data use, anything like that. I just want the core information. And then I give them examples of the inputs. So those are the inputs that I literally just gave to them in the user message. And then in output, I've just given them an example of what the output should look like. It should just be some text of you telling me a little bit about this person. And then I always put in a few final notes where I reaffirm that I want it to put in text format. If the data is ambiguous, note the ambiguity in the summary. So I'm basically saying, hey, if I'm not sure about this, I want you to tell me if you're not sure if this is the right guy, and all the rest of that, right? So again, I'll leave the JSON code for this. If you happen to be an N8N guy and you want to just steal the system prompt and everything, that's cool. I'll leave the JSON code for you to do that. But this is how this needs to be structured. And the better job you do in here, the better your output will be. Okay? So that's the AI agent. Now, once the AI agent is done, what I want it to do is take that information that it created, and I want it to put it into an Airtable. Okay? And I'm just going to go ahead and run this so you can see how it works and just how long it takes to get the report back. So let me just hit execute workflow. So it's going to run through its loop over. It's going to go grab the information from Perplexity. And like I said, it's happening really quick. I was shocked at how fast this agent was able to go and research the information. Then it's going to come back to the brain so it can compile that information the way I want it. And then it's going to send it over, once it's done, into Airtable. Okay. So I'll let it run again. And okay, so now it's done its research, it's gone into Airtable, and then again, all I've done is I've just given it the information that I want it to send to Airtable. And if we look at the Airtable, I've just got a simple database. So if you think about this, I don't really need that much information. Your sales rep probably doesn't need that much information. I just want to know who booked it, what's the date and time of the booking, I want the research, and then I want to know kind of what's happened with this meeting, like when the call, right now it's scheduled. Did they no-show? Are they considering? You could put in here if you submitted an RFP or if you returned an RFP. Did you close any business? Did his new deal that came in? What is it? What happened? So I put in a little result option there. And then last but not least is a meeting ID. And the reason we have the meeting ID is if they decide to cancel or they have to reschedule, I don't want it going back and doing it again. I just want it to update the new meeting ID. And so it will do that here in this node, create or update a record. Basically, I'm using this ID to determine whether or not this is a record that we need to update or whether we need to create a new record. Pretty simple. It's not that complicated. Okay. So the reason, now I could have done this inside of something like a Google Sheets. It's actually way easier to do it in Google Sheets because they'll accept pretty much any data. Airtable's a little more finicky with the type of data that it will take in. So I had to play around a lot with this to get it to structure this data and put it together the way I wanted it. But the reason I did it like this is because Airtable allows you to do something called interfaces, where it will create a custom interface that you can either give to a client or that you can access yourself that makes it really easy to see the information. And so that's exactly what I did is I created an interface in Airtable. And look at what it produces for me. So this is the research that I got back from my AI assistant. Here's the research briefing. Here's his name, Jason Stapleton. They found this is my dump email. This is where I send all the stuff I never look at. What's my company? What industry am I in? And then why am I booking the call? And then it goes in and it gives me a whole bunch of information. So business model, Jason is an established figure in the realm of online coaching, specializing in empowering entrepreneurs and coaching and effective scaling their business, yada, 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 yada. Right? Innovative strategy. Jason stresses the importance of crafting unique methodologies that not only enhance the effectiveness of coaching, but also, okay, that's pretty good. The Leverage Coach Program, monetize it. Yeah, so this did a really good job. And like I said, most of the time, you're not going to need a ton of information, but you just want to know a little bit about the company and what they do, or about the individual and what that individual does. And that's what this gives you. So every single day, I'm going to come in and I just check to see if there's a booking on my calendar. I know that I need to do a little bit of research on them. Now my agent does all of that for me and I don't have to touch it. And all I have to do is come in before the meeting starts, read through a little bit about who the person is. And then when I step into that conversation with them, I'm not looking like a dunce, like I haven't done any work at the front end. And that helps me close more business. When I show up and I say, hey, I've done a little bit of research on you and your company before, I see you do X, Y, and Z, and I can jump right into having them help me clarify what the struggle is, and I'm doing it from a point of actually knowing a little bit about their company, it increases my close rate significantly, right? And it'll do the same for you and your sales reps. So again, please take this. If you don't want to do this, there are great companies out there like Motion who already have AI agents built into their entire platform. I highly suggest, especially if you are an enterprise level customer, you should go check out Motion because they will custom build these agents for you and you don't have to do it. To have somebody come in and build something like this for you, your company right now, because there are very few people who understand how to do this, it's very expensive. Something simple as this might cost you $5,000, right? If you do something really complex where you need to maybe automate this so you auto assign it to different people inside of your company, like different sales reps, or if you need to do something more complex, like you have custom software or you have more complicated software that it needs to integrate with, these can easily get up into the $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 range to do these builds. You don't have to do that at Motion. They'll just build it for you and they'll build it right into their platform. And since you can already handle all your project management, all of your notes, all of your meeting notes and things like that you do all happens inside of Motion, your AI agents act even better because they have context. They have context on what they should be doing relative to your specific business. And so it's a wonderful opportunity right now to go and check those guys out. And if not, give this a try. Like I said, I built this for myself. I'm going to be turning it on and using it from now on, and it's going to save me a lot of time and hopefully increase my close rate even more than it is right now, which is already pretty high. But anyway, thank you so much for watching the show. Don't forget to like and share, subscribe, do all that stuff, and then talk to you soon.